Hello, Bill Bain, Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to Municipality May HVAC Building Automation Series. This is our second of three series in our month of May talking about municipal systems, countywide systems, statewide systems. Today, you're going to get kind of a special treat. Not only are we going to give you a highlight of automation and how it's affecting and can affect your world, we're also going to give a demonstration, and we've invited and are lucky enough to have a system integrator from one of the leading system integration companies in America who we will introduce later. So strap in. It's probably going to be a 30 or 40-minute presentation, we promise you. And on this call, there are people from around the world in the system integrator, end user, facility managers, CIOs and CTOs from cities and so forth. So everyone across the value chain is represented. You will find yourself here, we promise. So a couple of things. Let's just get a little bit of a level set. Here we are in 2021. The move to IP-based systems, cyber physical, IoT, analytics, everything data. Really, optimization more than remote control. Remote control, like you've heard me say before, if you've talked to me, is so 2015. Now it's optimization and cybersecurity. Now that we're on the same page, we're talking about the smart systems that you're instituting in your cities, in your counties, your schools, and so forth. I want to just give as we move to smart systems, I want to talk about and just say a shout out to our sponsors. First of all, SkySpark. SkySpark, when you think about those smart buildings and things that you're putting together, is software solutions that helps clients derive value from their investments in those IP-based systems. SkySpark Analytics platform automatically analyzes data from automation and control systems, metering systems, sensors, and other smart devices that help you identify issues and patterns, deviations, fault detection, and provides opportunities for that kind of optimization that we just mentioned. SkySpark also includes comprehensive workflow system and task identified issues from identification to resolution. Indeed, SkySpark helps building owners and operators find what matters in the vast amount of data that's being produced. By the way, they're in over 1 billion square feet of buildings around the globe, and they promise anywhere from 5 to 25% financial paybacks in under a year. That's SkySpark. Many of you who probably already know them. If you're from a municipality on this call, you may not. You should ask your system integrators about them. Our other sponsor this month, Service Twin, powered by Build Space. And really, it's an interesting combination. The pairing of SkySpark, monitoring energy and building operations to determine what needs to change, and Build Space and their Service Twin, which really allows you to measure and account for the changes in near real time. When you think about the convergence of energy, water, operational performance, and now facility services delivery, that's where most of the costs are. And this can be delivered under a single pane of glass now, once you've got your data, which is what we're talking about today. All right, so check out BuiltSpace's Service Twin. Their mobile-first asset and service management gives visibility to all your facilities across your municipality, your county, your statewide municipalities, wherever you are along that government value chain. All right, when was the elevator cap last disinfected? What's the current CO2 level in the mayor's office? Is the governor comfortable? When were these air filters changed last, and all of that? So I wanted to just give a shout out to those folks, because when you think about it, today we're talking about infrastructure, but unless you've got applications, and it's useless. Just like having great applications without infrastructure, also useless. So let's talk about, just get on a level set, IT systems versus OT systems. Most of you know the IT systems that you've had in your offices for your ERP and POS systems and email and all that, different from operational systems, which is what we're talking about today. those systems which really focus on the physical layer, processes, machinery, focused on getting work done. Really, this is what you're being asked to do by your customers. I mean, by your boards, by the mayor in your town. Go do this. Go bring your water systems, your SCADA. And by the way, let's optimize energy and cleanliness in our built space around the community. All right. So this currently is unnetworkable with what's available in today's marketplace. All right. And we already know this. And for those of you who are on the call running cities and so forth, protecting and maintaining critical systems has got to be number one. We've seen the hacks. We know what's going on all over the world. But not to mention public safety and healthy spaces. This is why we brought Built Space in. They're focused on what's going on in today's world right inside of your buildings. All right, so thinking about that, but not to mention you're dealing with budget cuts, cost overruns, employee overload. The guy we have on this call today, Jeff Purcell from ABM, he's going to talk about he's bringing efficiencies and optimizations right to his county customers. And you've got to pay attention to ransomware, cybersecurity, DDoS attacks, you name it. Not to mention your county boards, your city boards are saying we've got to keep operational effectiveness and we've got to keep our systems modernized. You've got a lot to do out there. Here's the problem right now. What's available is unnetworkable at the level of scale that's happening today. It may be you don't have the headcount. It may be you don't have the budget to put in a Palo Alto Cisco. First of all, they're not designed for your geographically dislocated operational systems. All right. So that's the first thing. And they're going to break the bank. They don't match the needs of the CIO, CTO at a city level. Second column you'll see here would be more handmade IT. Go grab a device. Let's go get some static IPs from a telecom company. Where's our network engineer, our Cisco engineer? Let's create a VPN, a firewall, encryption, and all of that. Again, traditional IT is not designed for the OT. Expensive and complicated. Some of you, including some of the people who've recently been hacked, have used cloud-based remote access systems. TeamViewer comes to mind. All right, these systems are, they sort of give you the whole problem. They know IT wasn't designed for OT, so they created what we would call a subset of networking, which is remote access, remote maintenance, where you get a box. In the case of TeamViewer, you put a computer next to your systems. They route and create a VPN up to their cloud. They give you a username and login so you can interact with your devices and machinery. This was smart 15 years ago. It's no longer viable for cybersecurity reasons. I don't need to get into that. You all read the newspapers. But also the way having cloud routed connections is not suitable for today's operations where you need to be able to interact with your devices more organically. All right. So why we're here today is TossiBox. TossiBox has automated that. TossiBox gives you that Cisco quality networking at a price point designed from the SCADA system, from the HVAC, from the building automation system up. So it gives you the flexibility of point-to-point connections, the most secure cybersecurity profile in the industry. With TossiBox, your systems are never even exposed to the internet. So it answers cost, complexity, and cybersecurity risks. All right, let's move forward. I've already mentioned we've automated networking. So just practically speaking, for the CTOs and CIOs out there, you now can maintain less expensive IT headcount, or better yet, have those IT professionals on your team doing other more strategic things rather than creating VPNs all day. So I want to say right off the bat, today we're talking about things that have to happen immediately. All right, if you're dealing with system integrators in your areas, and we've got multiple countries and and multiple states on the call, make sure your system integrators are segmenting your operational systems from your IT systems. Hard stop. You do not want your HVAC on the same flat network as your admin printer. TossyBox does that automatically. And more graphically, it's just clear that as you go to scale up your SCADA, your building automation, your city campuses, using traditional IT, you will, in reality, lose control of your cost, complexity, and cybersecurity risk. With TossyBox and our patented automation, we have flattened that curve using today's pandemic parlance. Okay, before I introduce our guest speaker, I've got to stop right here and talk cybersecurity. Everything we've done, we've automated. So no longer, and we're going to do a short demo later where you're going to see Jerry Reeves, our chief engineer, who's also on the call today, actually create a network. It's going to take him 10 seconds. At no point does he even get to make a decision. We've taken the human error out of networking. All right. It's an automated firewall for network segmentation and access control. There's never a third-party cloud routing solution out there. So you're in control of your data packets from edge to edge. The next few points are the most important. All right. Point-to-point data flow for sure, but there is no access to your networks, your citywide, countywide networks, without physical first multi-factor authentication. Let's face it, folks, software cybersecurity has been defeated. That's username and password, defeated. Even two-step authentication, defeated. That's where you would get a text, you would use that code, then get into your banking stuff, defeated. TossyBox is physical first, multi-factor authentication. The Department of Homeland Security recognizes that as the leading profile for bringing networks into your critical infrastructure. The next thing I want to talk about maybe is the most important thing. As you build your campus-wide HVAC building automation systems or your citywide SCADA for water, wastewater, none of these systems are visible from the internet. While TossyBox traverses the internet, it does not use internet tools like public IP addresses, like DNS servers. Thus, it has no attack vectors. Indeed, it's invisible from the internet. That's a big deal. As I wrap up, before I introduce Jeff more formally, you should also know that TossyBox, not only is it IT friendly, it's what the IT professionals would build on their own if they had the time. Okay, we've just automated it. All right, and more importantly, if you're bringing your HVAC systems in a building up, you never need IT to open any special ports. You can build a Class C, B, or A network behind any TossyBox in any TossyBox network. And as I mentioned, everything's cellular ready, and IT professionals already know and trust this. Okay, here's the fun part. I want to introduce, well, before I introduce Jeff, stand by, brother. I want to say these 5 things are what I'm going to guess Jeff can already speak to. And I want to say to all of you on this call, when you focus less on cybersecurity and IT, you get to focus more on community services and your critical infrastructure. When you pay attention to cybersecurity from the start, you win the cybersecurity narrative. Doesn't matter if you're a citywide CIO or a system integrator, you're protecting your city's brand and reputation, you're protecting your service company's reputation. You're also bringing resiliency and future-proofing your systems. All right, I can't tell you, Jerry, we were just on a call with a company that 4 years ago standardized on TossyBox, but only for remote maintenance. But little did they know, 4 years ago, they future-proofed all of their systems, and they've got systems all over the world to now start pulling data for a global SCADA system. So you're bringing resiliency and future-proofing your city systems, which will make your city and county boards very happy. All right, the next are obvious. You'll certainly be able to do more with less, which is a great segue to introduce Jeff Purcell, who's the controls director at ABM, one of America's largest system integrator and building automation companies. Jeff, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I can't tell you how delighted we are to have you. Normally, it's just Jerry and me talking about these things, so it really adds some serious credibility to be able to introduce you, who has been using TOSIbox for a while now. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and ABM, and then go right into how you're using TOSIbox to engage your customers.
Okay, my name is Jeff Purcell. I've worked for ABM for 26 years. My background was I was a service tech for a long time, and then I got into controls, and I've been controls for at least 20 years. And so the division that I work for currently for ABM, because ABM is a large company and they have a wide variety of divisions, and the division that I work for specifically is building energy solutions. And so what we do is we go into municipalities, we go into schools, we go into all kinds of different buildings, and we give them energy solutions on how they can better run their buildings. As Bill was saying, everybody's wanting to save energy, so we go in and we do that for anywhere from lighting, water, HVAC, we do solar, you name it. If it can save you energy, we usually our energy engineers and myself find a way to make that happen. And so as you know, I do the control side of it. So when we build these infrastructures in the past, we would put the controls in place, and a lot of times when we would go in these facilities, we would have to rely on the customer giving us VLANs, or relying on their IT department to do a lot of our network infrastructure and stuff. So when we go to set up our devices, and then once we had that in place, security was a big thing. So you saw on one of the screens where you saw TeamViewer and all these other third-party people that allow you to have that type of connection. But now in today's time, that's becoming a thing of the past because of security problems and stuff like that. So when we started, getting into that, we started researching, and we came across TOSIbox, and I talked with Jerry, and we had a long conversation, and it sounded great. So we started to implement that in some of our buildings. And I tell you, the first job that we ever did was for Bryan County government, and it's a huge county in the state of Georgia, and they have multiple buildings, multiple remote sites, and to link that was going to be a nightmare. And so we went in and we installed the TOSIbox infrastructure, and I can't tell you how simple it was and how much less time it took us to link these buildings. And we were also able to give these customers buildings that were remotely inaccessible before. They just didn't have, because some of these buildings, it just wasn't feasible to put in the infrastructure to bring those buildings in. So we're talking remote firehouses, we're talking remote call centers and stuff like that for the county, that we were able to link through TOSIbox and to bring that into their front end. And now they have the ability to monitor those buildings where they didn't have before, which was a great plus for them. And then too, from on our side of things, once we went in, we had setting up the network infrastructure was all on us. All we had to have was the approval through the IT department, and from presenting the white papers and all the things that Tossie Box offers, they were like, yep, it's good, it aligns with our security protocols. And then we were allowed to go out and install these locks in these facilities. And man, it was really easy. And I'm sure Jerry will show you here shortly, but I mean, it was literally, take you less than a minute to set this up. But the beauty of this is that on the secondary side, on the land side of things, we controlled the network, and we were able to develop that and to set up all those connections, and never had to bother the municipality's IT department for one IP or anything like that. Basically, we just had to make sure that we had a port that was open, and usually that is not a problem. And so that's what we do, and that's what has helped us tremendously. And since then, we've probably have 7 different municipalities, and not only municipalities, but we also have gone into some other places like industrial plants. And we've gone into, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Live Nation. They're one of the biggest concert venue people in the world, and we actually do some things for them as well. And we're having talks with them about implementing Tossie Box for to access their control system as well. And so, again, I can't stress to you how easy the setup is. And two, I'd like to talk about security, because nowadays, VPNs, going to a customer and them allowing you a VPN is becoming a thing of the past because of cybersecurity with ransomware and everything else that's out there. So it was very, high priority on ABM side that one, the devices that we were putting in, they were secure, and that we had secure access to those devices, and also making sure that it was secure so that it can for the customer. And so once we did that, the great thing about it is that it's very simple. They get a key, and the way the process works, it's very, very secure, and it gives us that connection to our supervisors or our field devices and stuff, from point to point through a secured VPN that never resides on the customer's network, which is a great thing. And I mean, we've even gone into some banks now that absolutely allow no access, that are actually allowing us to have that kind of connection now. And so, which is awesome.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to tell a story of how you're doing that. There's some really cool system integrators on the call and city managers. Walk me through this. So if you think about it on the call, folks, and Jerry, stay with me on this too. The digital journey, your digital journey often starts with, for people out there in the world, I just want to have access to my system so I can work on them. But what Jeff and his team has done is, because they're doing energy monitoring, they're using our machine to machine, or we call it lock to lock connectivity, where they might have a lock at each building and then their supervisory controller at a master headquarters. And you'll see that bright orange line there, the thick line, that's a layer 2 connection directly from that building automation system to whatever, Jeff, I'm not sure what you're using, but can you speak to that topology a little bit?
Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, we are doing a lock to lock connection. And so usually we have a server on the other end. It's a rack mounted server that we connect the lock 500 to. And then all the remote locks around, we make that lock to lock connection through the 500, which handles all the data that's being transferred from those buildings to our supervisor. So now we're connecting all those buildings and just bringing in all that data to one point. And so I think that answers your question on how we're
It totally
doing.
answers my question. Now, Jerry's going to actually do something. I want you to stay with us, Jeff, because we want to talk a little bit more about the next stage in your journey. If you
Okay.
guys don't mind, we'd like to show a 30-second video on how you can get started. So when you think about what Jeff and his team are doing, in the old days, using traditional IT, first you'd have to go find some static IPs, get some expensive routers, have the ability to create those networks. This is complicated. And not to mention, because of all the humans, who knows what attack vulnerabilities are out there and what you're exposing yourself. So take a look at this 30-second video, all right? And then you're going to see that which Jeff and his team and why he's bringing operational effectiveness to his company and then down to his customers. Here we go.
To adopt this lock into my network, I very simply take this key. I plug this key into my lock for 10 seconds. During these 10 seconds, I'm swapping security certificates, setting up the firewall, configuring the VPN security, and initializing the very first access control for this key, which is now the master key to this lock. After those 10 seconds, I can take my key out, and I'm finished. I perform all the configuration necessary to adopt that lock into my TOSIbox infrastructure.
Okay, so how I want you to view that 30 seconds is that's where it all happens. That's where our patents reside. And I want to go back to Jeff here because Jeff bypassed remote maintenance. His team is smart, he and his group. He went right to a local operational infrastructure. By the way, that 30 seconds you just saw, that automation set up the lock to lock too. All right, that's all done right in that first 10-second connection in that 30-second video. Okay, Jeff, let's talk about some conversations we're starting to have about why maybe it's time to start looking at expanding out and creating a more cloud-based. What's happening in your world or the services you're looking to offer, or maybe what your customers are asking for, where you're starting to think even larger area infrastructure?
So yes, now that we've implemented TOSIbox in several different municipalities and school districts across the state, actually across the Southeast, it's gotten kind of large. So what we've implemented a virtual central lock, which I'm sure that they'll explain more about. And so now what we've done is we've taken all those connections, the lock 500s that where all the lock connections are coming in, we're bringing those all into a central lock. And so what that allows us to do for the customer is that we can create what's called access groups. And so now not only do we control who has access to the system, we can actually even dwindle it down to, okay, we just want this person to be able to see this, or just the graphic page or one lock or something like that. We can set all that up in the central lock. And then from there, what we've gotten to now is that, as they were talking earlier, is that a lot of our buildings now we're implementing analytics. And so the customers are wanting us to run analytics on all that data that we're collecting. So now we're wanting to push that up into all that data into the cloud, but we want that data to be secured. So what we're doing is we're going to take all the supervisors that we have across the Southeast, and now we're going to have them report to the cloud, that data to the cloud. And now we're going to be hosting a lot of that data in the analytics, so that we can give them, building analysis on, everything that they have out there. So we're just growing into more space and more, we just need more space and more infrastructure to handle all that, which is perfect. for the, so the customer doesn't have to house this data anywhere or anything like that. It's all, housed by us in the cloud, and we can then turn around and have these third-party analytics companies do all the analyzing and everything, and create these reports for the customer.
It's so important, Jeff, it's so important what you just said there. When you say third party, you now, because you and your customers started here, all right, then you moved to a more operational energy management kind of topology, and now you're going up here. What Jeff and his team have done is they've created their own like infrastructure such that they're not reliant on any manufacturer or any specific software. They own their data. They own it from edge to edge. Now ABM is going to be able to go out, find the best software that matches the customer and use that. That's what happens when you get off the big manufacturer platforms and you create your own infrastructure, and that's available today with automation. So Jeff, if you don't mind, stay through one more video and we'll start to wrap up. All right, so think about what Jeff and his team are about to do. They're about to take their entire customer base and put it up in a hosted environment somewhere. In the old days, Jerry, why don't you tell us what it would have taken in the old days before automation to get that done? Then we'll play a video.
Wow. Expensive IT gear, static IPs, technical knowledge of VPN and secure connection creation, things like perfect forward secrecy and Diffie-Hellman and pre-shared keys, as well as the IT support to do so. In a lot of cases, that required network engineers with certifications and that sort of thing. TOSIbox automation makes all that a thing of the past, while providing the same, and I would argue even better, cybersecurity, because as you said, Bill, our users don't have to make decisions on cybersecurity. It's all built in and automated.
That's right. So indulge us for another minute and a half while we take you through 2 years of tech school and show you how to become wide area network engineers. Here we go.
By inserting that key previously, I've adopted this lock into my network. Now, what I can do is I can create infrastructure. So similar to this background picture that I have on my laptop, I'm actually going to take these two bottom locks, represented by my NetLab 500 lock right here, and my demo Siemens automation lock up there, and I'm going to make them part of a larger infrastructure up in my data center in New Jersey. Okay? So I'm going to actually create these bold lines, all right, which represent the networks that these locks will create to that data center lock. So back on my key software, here's my data center lock. I'll go ahead and connect to that device, all right? And this is our virtual central lock that exists up in that data center, and this one happens to run on VMware. We can support VMware, Hyper-V, KVM, and also Azure and AWS. You'll notice here that I have a few servers that are sitting behind this VCL, and a quick double click will take me right into the web interface of that device. I'll move my key software over here and actually shrink this down a little bit. And we'll go to, so now I want to make these locks connect up to that VCL. So I'll go to Devices, Connect Locks. I'll grab my VCL up in the data center, grab these two locks, hit Next. I'm going to choose layer 3 for data in this case. I'll hit Next, Save, and Finish. And you'll notice after a few seconds, all right, these two locks were just added to that data center lock up in New Jersey. These two icons are red right now, but give them about 15, 30 seconds, and they'll turn green, which will confirm that a point-to-point network has now been created between this lock, that lock, and the data center. All right, so individual point-to-point layer 3 networks from here in South Carolina up to my data center in New Jersey. With 3 checkboxes, a radio button, and a save, I've automatically created and expanded my operational infrastructure with TOSIBOX technology.
Okay. So as we start to wrap up, let's see, Jerry, we're 35 minutes into this. The CTOs and CIOs on the call and system integrators, they basically learned a new skill. You've taught them a new skill. Let's go back and finish up with Jeff. Jerry, is there anything you want to ask Jeff about TOSIBOX? Or I do remember Jeff saying once that it took longer to deploy these TOSIBOX, to drive them out to the counties and locations than to create the networks. Anything, Jerry, you want to close up with Jeff on?
No, I think, that was actually the clip I was going to say, because I remember that conversation after Jeff got through, I think it was Bryan County. And it's really a testament of how technology has evolved. I've enjoyed working with Jeff on his projects, and we have some more of these coming out, and looking forward to those future conversations. So appreciate your participation today, Jeff.
Thank you
And then,
guys
Jeff,
for
is
having
there
me.
anything you'd like to say to wrap up with the folks on the call?
Oh yeah, I appreciate you guys allowing me to share, because it really has been a game changer for us in every aspect of our projects. To help us streamline things, and to, on the customer side, just helping them to be, more comfortable with, what we're installing on a security side of things. And it's really, really opened up some doors for us in getting into some of these buildings that we weren't allowed to have access to before. But I appreciate you guys having me on the call today.
I'd love to hear that. So for everybody on this call, we've been talking about these 5 things, and Jeff Purcell just brought them to life in reality. None of this Jeff told us. This is what we've been saying for years. He's able to do more with less. He's able to do more through automation, bring the cybersecurity narrative down through the ABM brand, Jeff's personal brand, and now through the city and county brands. And really, he gets to focus less on IT, which means he gets to make these buildings do things the building owners never even knew they could do. So Jeff, stay with us till the end, man. We got like 2 more minutes, man. So we're wrapping up here. Thank you, sir. TOSIBOX is a modular OT networking platform. All right, it's modular. Sites are locks, users for keys, VCL for servers. So sites, users, servers. You build your global infrastructure, your global secure infrastructure, like building Lego blocks. All right. Any user can have access to any number of sites. Any site can give access to any number of users. When ABM gets large enough, they can concentrate tens of thousands of buildings through a single server at a single site. Additionally, we're bringing transformational technology. We brought that years ago. Now we're bringing new ways to purchase TOSIBOX. You could go full on SaaS, infrastructure as a service. You could own the hardware. You could do a services and hardware model, whatever matches your budget, your local rules. Sometimes in city and county and state and federal organizations, the buying rules get interesting. I'm sure, Jeff, you know that well. So you can now consume and purchase your OT infrastructure in ways that you haven't been able to do before. So look, the largest system integrators around the globe are standardizing on TOSIBOX. The system integrator arms for the major folks like Schneider and Johnson Controls use TOSIBOX. We are completely agnostic to global manufacturers because of that layer 2 point-to-point connection. You don't have to use those things. Jerry, what are they called? BVMDs, BVMDs? You don't have to convert anything. You could bring native protocols, BACnet IP, you name it, right over this infrastructure. And I want to say something a little bit special today. All of you on this phone call had something a little special. TOSIBOX was invented 10 years ago. Today is the first time ever that the inventor of TOSIBOX has actually joined this call. He's not going to be able to say anything. It's like midnight in Finland right now, but he's actually, Veiko, thank you for joining us. You were on a call with the founder and inventor of TOSIBOX. Special day, Jeff Purcell, we owe you, brother. Thank you for that fabulous. Jerry, thanks as always. Your videos were excellent. That's it. Thank you all. Bye-bye.